Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Redmen TV. It is the opposition preview for Leeds versus Liverpool this weekend, live on YouTube. I'm joined by Joe of JustJoe Football Show. I have just got myself in my ear, which is a nightmare. So I can carry on talking now. This is the opposition preview for the Leeds game. I'm hoping this one goes slightly better than the one I did last time. If you know, you know. Joe, thanks very much for joining us, mates. We're just going to have, obviously, we've just done the opposition preview over on the website. We've had a really good broad chat about Leeds and your season last season coming up. So head over to the website if you want to have a look at that, redmentv.com. This is going to be a little bit more about the game on Sunday and obviously your start to this season as well. 2 draws, 1 loss so far. Not been ideal, I suppose. But you had an international break to kind of digest that. And obviously, we're going into a slightly longer stretch of games now. Is this a fixture that coming off, obviously you've not won a game yet, and it might sound mad, but with Bielsa and with the way that Leeds play, is this a fixture that you relish to try and get a first win, or is a little bit of, we're playing one of the top teams, I'd rather not?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm looking forward to the game. Of course I am. It's a huge game against a great side, but I think the fact that we don't have that first win on the board, I think I'd have preferred something a little bit easier, I can't lie. I think if we'd have beat Burnley, which I was hoping for, I'm looking at it 3 games before United and Manchester United. We can go into that Liverpool game, but I think my thing is if we lose, then like you say, it's only 1 point on the board from 4, and then we've got to go away to Newcastle, which I'd fancy us. And if we didn't, and then the conversation starts to change a little bit, and I can't be dealing with that rhetoric. But no, I'm excited for the game. I'm really excited for the game, and I think both teams will have a go, which, and I think the fans as well being in the ground. These are the fixtures I've waited for as a fan. I know we were in the Premier League last season, but this feels like the first proper season still to me, the fact that we're in the ground, and I can't wait. Salah, Mane, these are the ballers that you look forward to seeing in the flesh, so it's going to be great, man.
What was the Everton game like? Were you there? Were you, with the noise?
Yeah.
Like just having that back? Obviously, I know you didn't win the game, and actually, I thought they gave you a good game. I was expecting you to roll them over, really. But just that release, because I know I felt it at Anfield with the Chelsea game and with the Burnley game, particularly the Chelsea game. Just that hours. What did that feel like?
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, it was. Honestly, it was amazing. I was lucky enough. I've got a season ticket. I was lucky enough to go to the West Brom game before the season finished, that final game, but it just wasn't the same. And just the whole match day experience, your mates you go with, where you go beforehand, getting in the ground and then marching on together. The Everton fans were pretty poor, I'm not going to lie, which you guys will like to hear on here, but yeah, they were pretty poor. But it was nice to see just the whole ground full. I think the noise will go up another decibel on Sunday as well, with it being Liverpool. I expect you guys to be noisy as well. But it was just amazing to be back. Like, it was pinch yourself kind of stuff, because you forgot. I forgot how important football was in my life. Do you know what I mean? And then it's getting back there and seeing all your friends and that again. It was just class, man.
It's just nothing. It doesn't feel like anything else, is it? It's just a unique feeling. So obviously, nice to have footy back after the international break. We will talk about the Brazilian stuff, but any fresh injury concerns in general? Is there any going to be any surprises other than the Rafinha thing for Bielsa on Sunday? Obviously, with the players coming back.
Yeah, just before the international break happened, we had Click and Junior Firpo both missing through COVID. They're both through their isolation, and we've seen pictures of Click on the drink, so they must be all right. So whether or not that means that constitutes them starting, I'm not sure. Whether or not they've been able to still, because Bielsa's pretty stringent when it comes to, you need to be hitting certain running stats, you need to have certain body fat, and have they still been doing that whilst they've had COVID? I'm not sure, so we'll have to wait and see. I guess we'll find out more tomorrow when he does his pre-match presser. Obviously, Rafinha is a massive miss for us as well. And I don't know with Robin Koch either, because he had to go for some surgery during the international break, but I'm not sure he'd have started anyway. So, look, I think the big thing is, if Firpo is missing, Click's missing, there's going to be a lot of square pegs in round holes. We don't have a second-choice left-back. That second-choice left-back is Stuart Dallas. Rafinha missing maybe means the way Bielsa works, he will go on the wing, because he won't have had enough time to work with Dan James, and Somerville's just a young kid. So I think he'd rather go, I trust Dallas, I'll put him there. But then this is the thing with Leeds. As a fan, it can be frustrating because it's like you're playing, it's really square pegs in round holes, man. It's mad. It's mad. But
rotation lottery.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Brazil thing. I'm interested to get your take on this. I find it one of the maddest stories ever, because basically what we're all being told is that because we did the right thing and didn't send our players to a red-listed country where they were going to have to isolate anyway when they got to Brazil, we're now being told that none of us can play our Brazilian players except for Everton because they're mates with the Brazilian FA. It just blows the mind, doesn't it? What is going on?
Yeah, it's madness. Especially the big thing for me was the Everton thing. Because I was thinking at first, because they play Monday, maybe they just missed the 5 days that they've got to be sanctioned for. Nope. But then it was like, oh no, it's like secret handshake kind of tackle. Like, you send Richarlison to the Olympics. Yeah,
it's one thing. It's like if it's a rule, and it's a rule for everybody, and
stick it. Everyone.
Is what it is. But for them to go, oh, you're all right.
Yeah, it's mad.
It's mad. How much is it? How much of a miss is Rafinha going to be for you if he can't play?
This is the thing. Like, I look at your team, and I know Firmino's exempt because he was injured. But prior to that, I was thinking, right, okay, so Fabinho, Alisson, Firmino. I know Firmino's changed now. I still think you missing them 3 players is not as important as us missing one Rafinha, because the depth and the quality you can bring in, maybe not in the goalkeeper position. I'm not sure on Keller. I know historically goalkeepers, second choice at Liverpool, haven't gone down too well. But I still think Rafinha is a bigger miss than what they are, because like you've got Jota, for example, you've got Henderson, you've got Naby Keita. Is Keita back as well, because he had the thing? It was like under gunfire or something.
Keita. Oh, I think Keita's back. I think they've got him out. I think they've managed to smuggle him out of the country, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously that was another weird situation. But the Brazil game, they didn't even play it in the end. They were just obviously because the Argentinian stuff happened.
Yeah, it's like they've gone, well, we as Brazil haven't got our Premier League players. So what we'll do is we'll wait till the game kicks off and then we'll take their Premier League players from then. You know what I mean? And went on the pitch and went, right, Lo Celso, etc. You're coming with us. And it just shows as well that we made the right decision in not going. And I think what the ruling is, if we were to field the player, then we would forfeit the game. But I think if Leeds and Liverpool just went, we'll both field them, then what happens? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I don't know. I think we just
both lose the game.
I think they'll probably find a way to have us do that. Does it make you any more confident though, particularly with Alisson? Because I think what we'll do if Fabinho can't play, we'll play Jordan Henderson in the 6, and he's a seasoned holding midfielder at this point. So that's not so much of a problem. But with Alisson, just his shot stopping, how dominant he is in the air, the distribution, and instead you're either looking at Kidd and Queven Kelleher, who's like the young Irish goalkeeper, or Adrian for Liverpool. I think it's probably going to be Kelleher. I think he's the second choice. For you, does that give you, it's not that he's a bad goalie, but he's young, he's inexperienced. Does that G you up a bit, even though you're missing Rafinha?
Of course, yeah. Of course you do. You've got to take your positives where you can, right? And I know this sounds bad. You never wish injury, but when I seen Virgil van Dijk, I was like, oh, he might be missing for the Leeds game, But obviously, he's all right now. But yeah, of course, any team in the world that misses Alisson's huge, because like you say, he's one of, if not, or at least in the top 2 goalkeepers in the Premier League, and that's for sure. He's a great goalkeeper, and anyone you bring in underneath him's not going to be quite at it. So yeah, of course, you've got to take your positives. We just need to make sure Bamford's on song and we can take our opportunities when they come.
So what impresses you about Liverpool in terms of, obviously we struggled a little bit last season. We had so many injuries with the centre-halves. We still managed to finish 3rd. We brought in centre-back cover, but we didn't make any other signs in the windows. When you look at Liverpool's team, and it might be asking you to state the obvious, but when you look at Liverpool's team, what really worries you going into Sunday? Where do you think that Leeds maybe are a little bit weak, that Liverpool should be able to exploit, and maybe that's how Liverpool are going to win the game?
Yeah, well, of course, it's going forward. It's that front three, of course it is. It goes without saying. I just think defensively as well, even just having Van Dijk even on the pitch as a presence is just enough. Do you know what I mean? He's just an amazing centre back, isn't he? You know, I know he messed up that first game where Bamford managed to get round him. But what I've noticed as well, and I think in all the Premier League games we've played so far this season, Bamford's no longer an unknown entity. Bamford has a lot more respect, and centre-backs are getting into tussles with him. Mina did it. Tarkowski did it. And I imagine Van Dijk's going to be doing it as well. Do you know what I mean? He's not just seen as, oh, it's Bamford now. Do you know what I mean? Maybe there's a lot more respect there. So, of course, the centre-back actually getting efforts on goal, but that front three is just frightening. It's frightening.
And what about the other way without Rafinha? Because you talked about Dan James at the beginning, and you don't feel like maybe he's ready or his work with Bielsa enough. Is it not a good type of game to throw him in? Because obviously, you know, Liverpool play with the high fullbacks. He's a pacey winger. It's giving Liverpool something to think about. You know, if he's playing on the right or the left, particularly if he's playing on the left. Obviously, there's Trent Alexander-Arnold's side. You know, he might be able to get him behind and cause a few problems. Is it a good type of game to go, oh, fuck it, let's just do it? Or does it need to be? Does Bielsa need to, you know, in a way, have some respect and maybe change his approach and try and change the way he's going to win this game because of how dangerous Liverpool can be?
Yeah, I think this is the thing. I think 9 out of 10 managers would look at the Rafinha situation and say, well, we paid 25 million for Dan James. He goes straight in, and like you say, he's going to cause any fullback problems. I read maybe Tsimikas might be playing as well over Robertson, possibly, because Robertson has played so many games in so many days. I don't know if that's true. It might just be guff that I've seen on Twitter. But yeah, Dan James would cause anyone problems. But as a Leeds United fan, I just don't see it happening. And then I look at the other winger we have in Somerville, who's still yet to make his debut. And I'm like, I don't think he'll use him. And then we're looking at moving Dallas to the wing. And that's where he first started his Leeds United career. And he's not great on the wing. And if an hour before kickoff, Dallas is starting on the wing, I'm like, I don't know where we'll create, because we do create a lot from the wing for sure. I just hope something happens where that Rafinha can play. I think as well, like, our midfield has gone missing so far this season. Bielsa keeps persisting with Rodrigo as the higher 8, not so much a 10, but a higher 8. And just his pressing numbers and the way that he defends isn't the best. Tyler Roberts, although there's a massive drop-off in quality, gives us more from a defensive standpoint. And I would prefer Roberts, but I think Bielsa really has set his sights on making Rodrigo into this high 8, and he's not that. I think a lot of Leeds fans are getting frustrated with it. If he's going to play him as an understudy to Bamford, as coming off the bench, but that's his position. He's a centre forward, but he keeps trying to play him here, and I just think there's a case of Van Dijk at times will just be able to stroll to the halfway if Rodrigo plays, you know, and then he'll just be able to pick his passes, and I'm a little bit worried. I can't lie, especially if players are missing. Square pegs in round holes. Yeah, I'd start Dan James I think is my answer. I know we're around the houses. Yeah.
Potentially, yeah. We've got a few questions in the comments just as I'm picking up people. I suppose the first one maybe to go with is, how do you think maybe in the long term, how do you think Dan James is going to change the team?
Oh, well, it's a good question. It's where he fits in. Really, because obviously we have two great wingers already in Harrison and Rafinha. There's been a lot of talk about Rafinha possibly moving centrally as that high 8-10, but you know, Bielsa's on record as saying he's better coming from the right, and then that means losing Rodrigo as well. It is really interesting how he'll go about bringing James into the side. You don't spend 25 million on someone and bench him, you know, especially at Leeds United, because it was close to our transfer record, you know. It will be interesting to see what he does with him. What gives me so much positivity around the signing is the fact that he's been chasing him since 2019, you know, the fact that he was the man, you know, and he gives us you know, so much pace as well. I think this is the thing in transition, like you've mentioned, if we manage to nick that ball, if Calvin picks up that ball, we've seen he can play a pass. He did so for Harrison when he broke in. If he does play, for example, and Trent's caught, you just know you just to knock that ball in the channel. And Dan James is winning a foot race against anybody. I suppose it's improving his decision-making and his final ball to making sure he hits Bamford in the box and Bamford puts it in the back of the net, you know. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. Stuart Wisby, would Joe like to have James Milner back at Leeds before he hangs up his boots? Not that I ever want him to go. We've had this conversation a few times over the last couple of seasons. Like, it's obviously as great as James Milner is, and every year when you come to pre-season, he wins the lactate test and the bleep test, and he's the fittest guy there, even though he's 35, 36. But he can't go on forever, you know. And I think in his mind, he's always wanted to maybe go back to Leeds or maybe in a coaching role at some point. Well, I suppose A, would you like him back? You know, does he kind of fit into this style at the moment? And B, if he did, where would he play? What role would he have? Or do you think it would more be of a, you know, to have somebody who's an experienced pro just in the dressing room for that experience?
I think my head has always been, when we get back to the Premier League, he'll come straight back. He'll come straight back. You know, that was always what the plan was, I guess. But now I look at it and it'd just be an emotional signing. Do you know what I mean? And we're not going to make that signing to just have him in there as a cheerleader kind of thing. And I don't think Milner would want that either, you know. I don't see it happening. I would like it to happen, but again, we've not got the biggest squad anyway. We can't just bring James Milner in. I hope he is involved at the club at some point. You know, it's funny. I remember that interview that Klopp spoke about when we played you. I think it was in the Carabao Cup, and how he said that he still talks about Leeds as we, and you know, and it's great. It is class, and we all love him. But I guess what's happened is Stuart Dallas is like your James Milner, if that makes sense. He can play anywhere, and we've sort of adopted him now. Like BT said, he was Leeds born, like even though he's from Northern Ireland, and we've just ran with that. Like Stuart Dallas is the new James Milner, so I don't see it happening now, unfortunately.
Moosh says, maybe not a relevant question, but who would he want to succeed Bielsa as manager? Since surely he won't stay too much longer. Seems to be signing 1-year deals every year. That is a strange situation. Do you think he's like, because like he's such a what's the word? Like he's such an admired manager from so many other managers. Like I feel like most of the time you also have to pinch yourself when you think you've got him, and you must feel lucky to have him. But he never seems to commit. I don't know whether he used to do that like at the previous clubs. Obviously, he's been big at Bilbao and back home, but he never, he's never really gone, I'm going to commit to a 3-4 year deal for you, and we're going to have this plan. It always seems to be season to season. What's that about?
Yeah, again, he's a bit of an enigma. It's funny, I went to an event last night, someone wrote a book about him, and I still didn't really learn more about him as a man. Do you know what I mean? Because he is a bit of himself. It's really strange how he works. I think this year thing is to stop him from being burnt. Like he's been in situations like he's suing Lille, I think it is, for like 15 million euros because he believes they had a breach of contract. Obviously, he was supposed to go to Lazio and then never got on the plane because he fell out. And I think it's just a bit of a fail-safe maybe for him that if he's not given what he's asked for, then he'll be on his bike kind of thing. And I do believe this will be his last job. He's already spent longer here than any time anywhere else in his career. It'll be like this summer, although we didn't do a lot of business in the window, we've had new pitches installed at the training ground, and he didn't take a holiday. He oversaw all this, all this that went on. He was big. Even at Bilbao, he handed himself in at the police because he had a fight with the contractor for the way that they were putting together the training ground. He's a madman. I've just got his book. Honestly, it's a brilliant read. As for his successor, looks the club. It's been mooted before. Steven Gerrard, like genuinely, it has been mooted before. Whether or not, it all depends, doesn't it, when he leaves? Because I do think that would be a great move for Steven Gerrard.
I'd agree. Would you take him? Because
100%.
Obviously it is impressive what he's done in Scotland. Yeah. But also, I think most people, maybe a bit narrow-sighted, would say, well, he's it's only Scottish football, it's only the SPL. But to dethrone Celtic like he did, and do that with obviously the unfortunate and actually they had a pretty good Europa League run as well.
Yeah.
I think they're out of the Champions League already. I think
right.
they've been knocked out. But to have done that kind of all season and go and beat in the SPL, that's the other thing about last season. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like to not only win that league. If he was announced this time next year, would you be on board with that?
Yeah, I would. Yeah. Like you say, the style of play is very, very good under Steven Gerrard. the club are always making contingency plans. This is the thing, because they know with Bielsa they have to. I like what Gabriel Haynes is doing as well, but obviously there's that Manchester United link there, all that sort of stuff. But the thing is with Steven Gerrard, it would have to be at a time where Klopp's still at Liverpool, isn't it? Because that's his next club, I guess. But I think Steven Gerrard will probably relish the opportunity to come to Leeds United after Bielsa and do it in the Premier League. They will come a time when he moves on. But listen, there's a lot better people that will know a lot more managers on the continent, more than me, that will be able to tell you different names that I don't even know about, So...
So what do you think? Let's say that maybe on the cards Bielsa leaving next summer. What would you like to see Bielsa do? Obviously, all the off pitch stuff is a really good start. But what would you like to see Bielsa do over the course of this season to set Leeds up in the best way that he can for when somebody takes over?
Yeah, it's difficult. I think whoever comes in after it's going to be
a big job.
Yeah, it's massive.
That's just to live up to those expectations, because Leeds are such a big club. And you've had such a big name manager and he's done such a good job. It's going to be a little bit like when Klopp eventually leaves Liverpool, I suppose.
Yeah, they're on hard enough, that they really, let's be honest. And I know it's nowhere near the longevity, but it's like when he left Manchester United, like when Klopp will leave Liverpool, it's a big overhaul, because that's what Bielsa's done in such a short space of time. He has overhauled the club right down to the core, the city, just everything. So it will be a massive, massive change, and it'll be a huge job. I think what I would like to happen if he is to stay, I want us to be safe and have a very good squad, because like I've mentioned on the video we did earlier, I look at a lot of the individuals and I don't think managers that are out there would be able to get the same outputs out of these players that Bielsa does, and then you maybe drop towards the bottom, and you don't need that in your life, do you? We've been there, done that, and I never want to wear that T-shirt again,
Sound, yeah, no. We've never had to go through that, and I'm hoping we never do. I'm just supposed to round off score predictions of the game. How you think it's going to go? If you want to go with a head versus heart, difference of opinion. If you want to go that way.
No, look, I'm nervous. I'm not going to lie, right? But I'll never not predict a Leeds United win. It's just not in my makeup. That's just me. That's what I mean. Like we're talking about doing season predictions, and I said if I did a season prediction, we'd win the season by about 20 points because we won't lose a game, so it's pointless, Look, it's going to be tough. I'm under no illusions. We've got to score first, especially with the results so far. I'm just hopeful Rafinha can play a part. I'm going to go 2-1 Leeds United. We have to get a win on the board, and what better way to do it against Liverpool at home with a full stadium bouncing?
No, it's a good opportunity. It's a game that I'm a little bit worried about with, obviously with the fans back in. I've never really seen a proper full and pumping Elland Road, with just the age that I am, and obviously when Leeds went down and stuff. And even like last year, even though it wasn't even full, whether you remember, like the whole game was surrounded by the Super League stuff, and it was a game that we couldn't really enjoy, and and all of that. So for me, I'm going to go 2-0 Liverpool, because I think even though I'm worried about not having Alisson, I think we can cover without Firmino. He was going to be injured anyway, I think. And I think we can cover without Fabinho. Did that the first wing of the season. I just think that without Rafinha, I think we've got enough at the back to sort of iron out any issues that you might be able to throw at us. Might be different if you play Dan James. I do worry a little bit about him and the pace that he's got, getting him behind the fullbacks. But Salah started the season so sharp. The midfield looks good. I'm hoping Harvey Elliott's fit and he can play a part, because even though we picked up a small injury on international duty with England under 21s, but he started brightly. He's a little bit more of an unknown quantity for sides. I just think we've got loads of options in midfield that we can use to kind of mould and change the game when we need to. And even though our squad depth isn't brilliant, I think that if it's tight with 10-15 minutes to go, I think we can make a change and maybe grab the win that way. So that's just me, but I can understand you can't predict anything other than a Leeds win. I can't predict anything other than a Liverpool win. That's the way it goes. Thanks, Joe, for joining us, mate. It was a really good chat. Head over to the redmentv.com for our more in-depth opposition preview extra, just all about Leeds and their journey over the last 18 months. And we'll be back next week with more opposition insights. See you later. Goodbye.